friends, it's Syreena from TheFALLCoFamily, and this is TheFALLCo Friends. You guys, I wanted to pop in a little bit. I never know how like complete or raw or whatever these videos can be, but my hope is to just string them together so that you get a more realistic feel of what it is like, what our homeschool is like, what our homeschool days are like, what my planning is like. And so I wanted to revisit this whole unit study planning session. One of the things I wanted to try to drive across is that I start off with a plan and I don't wait for it to be full or finished. So the last video that I posted about starting to prep for our mini unit on the rainforest was just the beginning, and I always like to make sure that I start with that and try not to hold things off until everything is quote unquote finished or complete. So now that I started, today I am actually going to move on to filling out a little bit of my unit study planning page and then also doing our chalk wall. So I thought I would just kind of pop in to show you how that goes. Hold on one second. Okay, I'm back. So I have my stuff surrounding me like I normally do, and I just wanted to open up my unit design board. So this is what it looks like, and what was I gonna say, you guys? Okay, now I do know that this is a bit extra, but like I said, I like to be extra. And this is, I had the podcast on this and I mentioned it in some of the live sessions, but this is really important to me. And this is where I carve out time to make this my own and try to have as much fun doing these things as possible. This is, let me turn this up for you. You guys, this is self-care for me. So I'm not saying you're gonna do this, but because, you know, it's that artist part of me that wants to have more time to be able to just practice, this is what I do. So anyway, as you can see up here, my unit theme is the Amazon rainforest, and this is what we call a compassion unit. And my objective here is to create a connection concerning the destruction of the Amazon rainforest, to explore why such destruction is occurring and how we can help. Then, as you'll see here, this is normally what I start with, just to kind of start brainstorming ideas. And this is the space where my unit really comes together and I start to really like identify why we are studying this. And it's also where like I can really start to connect pieces that wouldn't normally connect for others. Like your normal things would be to study the rainforest and maybe biomes, but I like to like let our studies just kind of develop on their own. And I think the only way we can do that is to really just sit and think and imagine, or whatever. I hope that's making sense. So what I have here is what I try to put on the chalk wall is things that I want them to walk away with. I try to keep the things up here that I want them to leave, and if all else fails, if they remembered nothing else or learned nothing else from the unit, these are the things that I want to have like an impression on their minds. So one of the things that I had was I drew my little toucan here, which I'm actually very proud of. But I drew him, and after I drew him, while I was thinking, then I thought, wow, like why don't we just go ahead and list his parts as the anatomy of a bird, so we can drive in that little bit of information, because I am pretty sure that the Amazon holds a very large percentage of the species of birds in the world. And so to me, I thought that that was kind of important and a really cool fact to point out. So of course over here, I want them to have a good grasp on what a biome is. So I highlighted some of the examples of biomes that we know mostly about. And I highlighted the area of South America that holds most of the rainforest there, which is the Amazon. I also listed oh wait, let me go over here. I also list facts that I think are interesting, that I think that would be good for the kids to walk away with, which is 60% of the rainforest is in the country of Brazil. So as you can see, Brazil is around this area. area, and that was a fact that I thought would be really good to include. Then also over here, I thought it would be really good to cover the layers of the rainforest. We watched one documentary the other day on the rainforest, and oh my gosh, it was amazing. I have to list which documentary it was, but like we were in awe. But there are 4 different layers of the Amazon, of the rainforest, and so I thought it would be good for us to cover that. And then also over here, this was something I wanted, because this is a compassion unit. This type of stuff is really important for me to include. So causes of deforestation. And I got this, you guys. This is where your research comes in. Planning for me basically is research. And I kind of wanted to talk about this because I'll show you here. Okay, so this is my unit. I showed you briefly before. This is my unit, and I basically just go through whatever I have pinned to jumpstart all of my ideas. I have this little chart right here, and this is where I got this from. So if I go back into my rainforest, what is this called? Pinterest board. I just kind of start looking through it, and I give myself time to imagine and think of different ideas. So I saw this infographic right here, and on here were the causes of deforestation, this chart right here. So I thought this would be really good to have them kind of meditating on, so that they can understand why we are trying to research and look for solutions here, or to raise awareness here. And so that is what I put right there. And then from that, there was also a fact down, I think it was down here, this one right here, the fact that 90% of the Amazon rainforest plants haven't been studied by modern science. So this is always the type of thing I like to highlight to the kids, because I do push the idea, or the fact that they are on this journey of exploration, and then they are meant to explore and discover different pieces of the world to find solutions, to bring healing, and you know, all those things. So this is the type of information that I like to highlight. So what else was I going to tell you? Okay, back over here. They're laughing in the other room. So another one of the things I do is, I came across this here, where there's this little creation, this little project building the layers of the rainforest, and I thought this was really cool. So I called Cameron in, and I said, hey Cam, remember we did our toucan, we did a little toucan project, and Cameron made a 3D toucan that looks a little bit something like him. So let me show you guys. Hold on. Okay, the kids are actually eating lunch, and there's mess everywhere because that's what this is. So he made this little toucan the other day, which we have to take the tape off. He put the tape on there to make sure that it stayed together in order for the glue to dry, and now we'll take the tape off. But he made this the other day during a little bit of our art time, and I thought, hey, why don't we go ahead and expand upon this and create a project for with cardboard boxes and all this other stuff, and create an example of the layers of the forest, of the Amazon rainforest. So that was kind of my inspiration behind that, because a lot of times you come up with a lot of ideas, but whether or not we're going to be interested in it, or whether or not we have the tools to complete it, is a whole different story. So I have that, and then let's see if I can go back and try to let you in a little bit on a little bit of how my brain works. So, of course, all these different ideas are popping out at me. But again, my goal is to find things that, one, they actually are interested in and can be pulled in with their active thinking, if that makes any sense. And two, do we have a majority of the resources needed to complete the projects? So the other day when we were doing our toucan art, Savannah's art is actually, she used some chalk and drew her toucan out on black paper, and then Cameron wanted to make his 3D, but Kendall kind of struggled through it. And Sometimes I struggle trying to figure out if I'm providing enough instruction or too much instruction, and I always err towards not giving too much instruction. So, because I want to see where their brains are going to take things. So I let him have that time, and I see that he's struggled through it. And because of that, what I'm probably going to do is go in and find one of these types of things to give him a little bit of guided, you know, help. So I'll probably print this out for him so he can do a little bit of this craft. But I do like to give them space because a lot of the times they surprised me. So that was another thing. And then I saw over here this little rain stick craft. We've done this before, and I thought it would be fun to do it again because, of course, we're covering the rainforest. What else? I'm trying to think. Okay, back over here now. So I have this part of it covered, which is going to give me enough to start working on our chalk wall, which I'm going to do and include in this week's TheFALLCoFamily film. But over here, what I do is start listing out any supplies that I need. And so black construction paper, black scratch paper, shoe boxes, toilet tissue rolls. So I list those things, and then I check off the things that we have. This is normally a really big part for me, because what I'll do is just start writing out things that I would need, and if I don't have at least 50% of them checked, I scratch the idea mostly. Because I do not want to waste time or resources going out and getting more things. Only if they are so into it that it's 100% worth it. If not, I found that often sets me up for what is it called, disappointment, because I'll go out and get all these things and they won't even be really into it, and to me that's not worth it. So this is an important part for me. And then down here is another part of the planner. I just list the date that we started working on it. Sometimes this is left blank because sometimes I plan out a unit and we move in a completely different direction. So what I've learned to do is just, well, now that I do this on my iPad, it's really easy because I can just erase it, so whatever. So then I move on to my letter, and I talked about this in one of my lives about, you know, just carving out a separate little unit study to help in areas that your kids need help. So I either call them like a compassion unit, or if it's like a character issue, or I normally call it a boot camp if it's something like math specific or letter specific, that type of thing, language arts specific that I want us to work on. But here what I'm trying to do is just highlight a letter and a number, and to me this is really helpful in trying to expand my mind and my creativity while learning language arts and also math. So these are the two that they are going to be on the lookout for while we're completing or while we're working on this unit study, is the letter B and the number 12. So obviously with the bigger kids, they're going to be highlighting words like biodiversity and bioluminescence. And then they're going to be doing higher level math with the number 12. But this is one of the ways that I make it fit all of us as a family. So B and 12. And then another thing that I'll do, because I take it all the way there, is like B12, like vitamin B12. So I may actually focus on vitamin B12, where it comes from, why it helps, that type of thing. Oh, okay. I can't believe I'm sharing all of this because I feel really weird, but hopefully it helps and hopefully we can connect in that way. So then I move on to any sight and spelling words. I literally just, as I'm doing my research through what I want us to learn and basically what I want to learn too, I start listing out sight and spelling words. South America, tropical rainforest, emergent, canopy, understory, forest floor. I'm going to be honest with you, when I first started writing these, and these came from just flipping through these books and looking through my boards and looking at my maps. And when I come across words that I feel like would be a good fit, I write them down. And when I started writing them down, I didn't know what these were until I went back through another one of the resources and realized that these were the layers of the rainforest. So we live and we learn. So yeah, so I move on to like environment, deforestation, indigenous. Did I say that correctly? I'm pretty sure I did, I think. Books and movies. So I start highlighting any books and movies that I've come across that I feel like would be a good fit. They can be research books. They could be picture books. They could be read-alouds that are set in that area. So I'm looking for setting in Brazil or things like that. That is what I'm looking for. So I start by writing a few down. I don't need to fill this all the way up because it will kind of come along the way. And you guys, I go through this process. I've mentioned this before, but I'll say it again. I go through this process to document, and this is what becomes my records at the end of the year. So then also I like to include fun things too. So because the movie Rio is set in Brazil, like this is one of those things that I'll add to the list and try to make it all full circle. Activities and field trips. We already did the painting the toucan drawing, frog origami, rainforest layers project, making binoculars, making a rain stick. So I try to include things that are really easy and simple to do, almost so simple that they can completely do them on their own without my help. So those are the things that I'm really looking for. If it's something that they need my help with, then it's a project. And normally I try to pick projects that I can just facilitate and manage and help with and not do for them, if that makes any sense. So there's that. And then at the bottom here, I normally like to highlight any scriptures that I feel like are going to help us really explore and point it back to our purpose. So in this case, I have Jeremiah 17:7-8, which they have already basically memorized. This one is about not being bothered by the heat or worried by the drought. To me, this helps to point us back to, because I think that when you start dealing with compassion units or studying things that elicit a compassionate response, my concern is I know I can get overwhelmed. Like I want to help. It just feels like I live in the worst world ever. But I want us to always see things through the Lord's eyes and knowing that, you know, we are here to help and not be overwhelmed by the sadness that we uncover while we're exploring and discovering our world. So while we don't want to turn our backs on it, we want to educate ourselves and gather knowledge and then look for wisdom on how we can be of assistance and how we can help. So that one was important to me. And then Matthew 5:9, blessed are the peacemakers. Another thing, yeah, there may be a lot of bad things going on and, you know, people doing things for the wrong reason and purpose and all that other stuff, but we want to be the peacemakers. We're going to focus not on what they are doing, but rather what we can do to help and bring peace. And then Philippians 4:7, the peace of God will guard your hearts and minds. This is another thing I want to remind them as we are studying and as I am trying to, you know, uncover their hearts of compassion. I just want to remind them again that the peace of God is always with us. So this is what it looks like. This is what my unit plans look like. I hope this was helpful. I'm trying to think of anything else that I wanted to say. It's like along my days, I think of all these things that I want to be able to tell my friends. I'm like, oh my gosh, I should tell them this. Maybe that'll help explain why I do certain things. So yeah, I also had this book. I showed you this before, but it just outlines some of the books and stories that you can start to add to your homeschool days that will have, in hopes of raising globally minded children. That is what I'm trying to say. So this is what I have here. I'm not going to be too super lengthy. I'm going to go grab our chalk and start working on the board with Cameron. We're just going to start with these things and see what else we can uncover and come up with and how that ends up. So hopefully you will see a little bit of that on our TheFALLCoFamily film. And yeah, you guys, I will see you in the next video. Thank you for my very raw and very unedited and, you know, homeschool mom to mom conversation. Yeah. I will see you in the next video.